This is an E90 with an N54 engine, and it's direct injected. It's turbocharged, direct injected, and that means that the intake valves actually end up getting gunked up, and you probably should get them cleaned maybe every 50,000 miles or so. Walnut blasting is like the gold standard. That's not the only way to do it. You can actually use a chemical cleaning method to do it as well, which is perhaps a little bit cheaper. And I figured I would make a video testing all the different methods, you know, and kind of comparing them. I actually found 3 different chemicals that could be used to do this. One of them is Berryman's Chemtool fuel injector cleaner. Another one is this BG Platinum air intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner. And then this one specifically says it is intake valve and turbo cleaner. And it's got a picture of a gunked up valve on it, so it must be what that's for. So I've got all 3 of those, and we're just gonna test those cleaning methods in this video, one on each cylinder, and I'll kind of, you know, I'll give you my opinion on how much work it is and, you know, which one's better than the other. I wanna find which chemical is the best one to use out of these 3. And then finally, I'll probably use the Walnut blaster because I just got one and I got it all set up. I'll probably use that to hit all the cylinders just to make sure they're all good, unless the chemicals are really good. So that's what we're gonna do in this video, so let's get started. So let's briefly talk about the tools needed to do this job. For the chemical method, you're gonna need one of these 3 chemicals. We'll find out soon which one is the best. You're gonna need some way to spray that chemical on. In the case of this has a spray thing built internally, but if it ends up being one of these that you use, you need some way to spray it. I chose to use this garden sprayer. And then you probably are gonna need some brushes. I just picked up these from Harbor Freight, all different sizes, and we'll figure out which one I end up using. That's pretty much all you need, plus some paper towels to do the chemical cleaning method. So for the walnut blasting method, you are gonna need a couple more tools and supplies. So I got most of the stuff from Harbor Freight. This is a 20-pound abrasive blaster. They actually do make a cheaper one that's made out of plastic. You can get that one if you want to. I think this one was like $80, and then that one was $60 or $50 or something like that. But I was able to use a 20% off coupon on one of the special days to get this thing, so it worked out. This is the nozzle that it comes with, okay, which normally screws into right here. I bought this nozzle on FCP Euro for $20. I figured, screw it, you know, might as well do that. And initially I was gonna get this thing and try to get some fittings in order to adapt it to this, you know, which is easy to do. You go to the hardware store, I'm sure you can get a converter fitting from that to this, no problem. But the tip of this wand actually is a little bit too small. This tip is much bigger, and it's designed to go with this plastic piece, which I bought this, I think, off of Amazon. You can get them on eBay. A lot of people 3D print these at this point. This is a copy of the BMW tool, which I think was made out of aluminum or something. And so people are making it out of hard plastic. And you just put the wand in there, and that's how you know, spray the walnut media in. And this is obviously to hook up to your shop vac, which I already had. I already had this hose, which gives me 1 1/4 inches. This is 1 1/4 inches. And then I just went out and bought some vinyl tubing that was 1 1/4 inches inside diameter and kind of zip tied them there. So, and by the way, I had to heat that up with a heat gun in order to get it uncollapsed and stuff. Anyway, you also need to have an air compressor, which I already have. And in addition to this thing, you also need walnut abrasive media. So that is a lot of stuff to buy. And, you know, I see the allure of the chemical method. There's a lot less involved, especially if you don't have an air compressor or anything, or a shop vac or anything. You have to buy all those things before you can even buy this tool in order to use this. So I get it. I understand why people don't want to go out and do this, but if you have, most people, I think, if they're into this stuff, you're already gonna have a shop vac. You're already gonna have an air compressor. Doesn't have to be anything special. It can be a little pancake one. This, again, the whole setup with all the media and the fitting probably cost me like 120, 30, something like that. So it was not too bad. And I will put all of the costs of everything in the description just so you can see specifically what the costs were. So you do need to remove the intake manifold from the vehicle completely. I'm going to cover that right now. If you already know how to do that, you can go ahead and skip past this whole section. I'm going to put chapter markers in this video, no problem. For those of you who don't know how to do it, we're going to cover it right now. Now to remove the intake snorkel, there should be T20 screws right here. Mine are kind of stripped out so I don't keep them in. You kind of don't need them. So that's 5mm bolts right here and here. 2 more in the back. Looks like I'm missing one there for some reason. And then there's one down here, which, ooh, might also be missing. Yeah, my back one is missing for some reason. But you would remove those as well. All right, so now the air box comes out. That is a 6mm socket or flathead screwdriver. You gotta open up these clamps here, front and back. There's another one back up here, basically on the other side. So this thing will pop off, but these wires right here, there are sort of rubber grommets back here, and you just kind of have to pull them up. So that's kind of what they look like. You just pull those up and off. This, we do want to get this up and out of the way. So you just squeeze that right there. It's just a vacuum tube. It runs to the brake booster. And this thing just kind of pulls up and pops off like that. And comes out. As you remove everything from it. So yeah, those rubber grommets were hooked onto these 3 prongs right here. What we're going to do next is we're going to remove this clip here, or pull it up, and this will allow us to move this guy down. And let's see, we want to remove this bolt here. It is a T30, I believe. It kind of stays in place. Allows you to lift this and kind of move it a little bit more, you know? Move it down and out. And let's see, I think I'm going to remove these blow-off valves. Just, it'll allow this thing to move more down. So all I did there was I turned this lock. So I turned it that way. This one, again, turn it that way. I don't know if that one needs to come out, but I'll take it out anyway. And this just lets us move this thing down. Those are 10mm fasteners. Just reach underneath for the bottom ones. There's 4 altogether. Okay. And when I've done this before, I have taken this whole bottom charge pipe out completely. I might do that right now just because it'll get it out of the way. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna do that. To do that, we have to disengage this electrical connector, and they made these really, really difficult, man. These are kind of the ones that they don't just pull off. There's no little pin that you can press down easily to get them off. You have to slip a little pick underneath the thing in order to get them off. We use old-fashioned slotted screwdriver. There we go. That just allows us to remove this altogether. Really, it's nice to get things out of the way, make room for yourself. And I do see oil building up in these intake tubes. All right, guys, this is the bracket I was talking about before, and it kind of just needs to be, this electrical box is snapped into these metal fins that are coming out here and here, and there are little things sticking up that are gonna prevent this piece of plastic from, they're trapping that piece of plastic in. So you kind of just need to, in order to pry this thing forward this way, you need to pry those up both at the same time. Now, having done this before, I hope maybe it'll be a little easier this time, but essentially you just have to find some tool to shove in to right there on both sides in order to pry it downward. Little pick tool for this one. You gotta shove real hard. So I can feel that I've got this one already moved past, I think, where I need to move it past, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I can see it's kind of moving there. The one on the far side, and it just popped backwards as well. The one on the far side, not so much. This tool needs to be shoved under a little more. And, there. I remember that happening last time as well. Still haven't found a solution for that. Oh, look what I did. No, I didn't. Okay. Boom. So that is down and off. And don't be afraid to shove real hard. I found that that black plastic does not break easily. But it's your car. Be careful. So that is now down and good. And there should be nothing else holding this intake manifold in. So other than this wire here, this is a little thing you can pull down, right? That'll hold that in, and there should just be bolts bolting this intake manifold on. we have a connector here. This is the one that was on that charge pipe thing that we removed, that I used the pick to get off. So you have to sort of put your pick underneath there, or some tool underneath there, lift it up in order to get the connector out. And it's really difficult because, you know, that it's for this one right here, and it's difficult because it's facing downward and you can't see it. Typical BMW, those are probably 11s, right? Yeah, those are 11s. 11 millimeters. Feels like I'm forgetting one thing. I think we need to take this connector off here. Help get that out of the way. And did I forget one thing? There's just one little electrical connector, like a little plastic thing holding an electrical connector on. Let's see. Oh, it's just another little Christmas tree thing. Hold on, I got a tool for that. This kind of guy. There we go. And we're out. Ooh, that thing is a little dirty. All right, there is oil in my charge pipe, and that oil has been contributing to the dirtiness that's on the back of the valves. In fact, I can see some wet spots on the backs of a couple of the intake valves. So that's definitely a problem. So there are two main causes for this oil. Number one would be a weak PCV valve, and number two would be leaking oil seals on the turbos. The turbos only have about 100,000 miles on this particular car, so it's unlikely to be that. It's most likely going to be the PCV valve. It's really old, and they do make an aftermarket replacement, and I did buy one, and it's on the way. We'll do a repair for that in a separate video. All right, there is a tool which I forgot to buy, and that is a remote start button. It's actually easiest to use a little remote starter switch in order to bump the engine over to close, make sure the intake valves are closed as you work from cylinder to cylinder. An alternative method that you could use is you could put a socket on the front of the engine crank bolt and just bar the engine over manually. But to do that, you actually have to get the engine fan out, which is a pain in the ass because you have to jack the car up, remove the plastic splash shield, and remove that one bolt that's holding the aftermarket or the automatic transmission oil cooler to the bottom of the fan. That's a big pain in the ass. I see why people want to use the bump starter. I don't have one. I forgot to get one. So I'm just going to use a jumper wire. Now, all you have to do is jump the starter solenoid, which is this guy right here. There's a little connector that you pull off. You just jump that to battery positive, but look what happens when you do it. Well, you see how you get a spark right there? I wasn't getting spark at that moment, but you get a spark when you do that. So if you're using the chemical cleaning methods, you don't want to make sparks while you've got those vapors in the air. So maybe the best place to do it is over here at the battery positive, all the way on this side. That way, if you do make sparks, they're kind of well away from the area where you have all the fumes, and that way you can just do it over there like that. So that is the method that I will employ. And one important tool to have is a flashlight, because you need to use it to see which intake valves are open. And I can tell that number 1 is open now that I did all that. 2 is closed, 3 is closed, and 4 is closed. 5 is a little bit open, and 6 obviously is closed. You're always going to have two. You're going to have one valve that's really open and then a second one that's almost closing or almost opening, something like that. So you're going to have 4 cylinders that are good to be cleaned at any one time. So in my case, 1 and 5 are open. So I'm going to clean 2, 3, and 4 with the chemical cleaning methods all at the same time. I'll spray them all in there. We'll let them sit for about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to proceed to just kind of clean them with the brushes, and I'll see which one works and what's up. All right, the first one is going to be Berryman B-12 Chemtool, which is by far the cheapest. I think I get that at Walmart in my area for like under $10. So I'm just gonna spray the inside there. Let that thing soak in. Next one we'll use is the CRC intake cleaner. Okay. Interesting. Okay, this one is the BG Platinum. All right, we're gonna let those sit for 15 minutes. So here is what my intake ports look like right now. Pretty cruddy. It's kind of difficult to get this light in here at the right angle, but there you see what it looks like. Now that little that black stuff hanging down there, that was caused by me putting the vacuum port in there. That kind of, you know, squeezed the gunk down, and that's why that looks like that. But that's what the back of my valves look like, and hopefully you can see all this. Kind of hard to get it in down there. But yeah, that's what things look like. So I'm not going to show you what all of them look like because it's just a little too hard to get the angle on the light right and everything, but they all look exactly like that. You know, some of them actually have a little bit more gunk on the back of the valve than others, but for the most part, they're all really gunked like that. And some of them were wet with that oil that we also saw in my intake ports. So while we're waiting for the chemicals to do their thing, let's talk about why this problem happens in the first place. Well, it's all down to the exhaust gas recirculation system, or the CCV, as you might have heard it called, that basically recycles the blow-by gases back into the intake manifold so that they get recycled and they don't get exhausted to the atmosphere. It's an emissions thing, right? And because they're blow-by gases, they contain both engine gases and vaporized oil. That oil collects on the back of the intake valves and it doesn't get washed off. On previous engines, they had port injection. The fuel injectors were in the intake manifold, so the fuel would get squirted before the intake valves, and that fuel would wash down the engine valves and keep them clean, the intake valves, and keep them clean. But because this has direct injection, the fuel injectors are directly bolted into the cylinder head, not in the intake manifold, so there is no fuel to wash down the back of the intake valves, and so that's why they get dirty. So unfortunately, it's just you know, one of the things we have to live with if you want a really powerful car with smaller turbos that's producing a lot of horsepower, or has the capability of it anyway. So that's the story. That's why this happens, and you just have to take care of the maintenance on it. So let's get back to it. All right, so I'm just gonna get in there and use one of these tools to just kind of scrub down the sides and stuff and just kind of see how it goes and what it's like. So I still see some residue of the cleaner in there, so it hasn't leaked down, which, you know, is good. Valves are closing real nice. So you probably are going to need some compressed air in order to do this job. I suppose you could just stick towels down in there, really, I guess, if you are desperate, don't have a little pancake air compressor. So I don't know how great this is really doing. I mean, it's dissolving gunk and everything, but it is, I can tell, going to take quite a while. I don't know that I would want to do the whole thing like this, the whole engine like this. Yeah, it's okay. So far, it's not great. It's really this brush that's probably doing most of the cleaning, I would say. I kind of wonder, like, if I had attacked it with the brush first, and this is a brass brush, like what would have happened? How far would I have been able to get, you know? And probably, I mean, brass is a little soft. Maybe the steel brush would be a little bit more aggressive, and I wouldn't mind doing that on the walls of this thing. You're not really going to like damage it, but still, you know, I can see it's going to take work to continue doing that. So I think that's enough on that one, and I'm going to move on to the next cylinder. Yeah, I'll try to use the same brush. I think it's really not going to change anything. So what I will do is work these next ones, and then I will kind of come back and let you know if there are any differences or changes. I'm gonna blow this out here and put this towel over it. I just want to get the chemical out, which it's still kind of sprayed everywhere. Okay. I think I sprayed less cleaner into from the CRC turbo cleaner thing. I guess I got less in, or it evaporated more. Okay. Oh, okay. Now I really got that stuff. Man. I've got all my windows open, by the way. Make sure you have everything open. All right. My engine bay is dirty. It's going to take some cleaning. That's already a con as far as the chemical cleaning goes. Okay, this is the first one that we started with. This is the Berryman's Chemtool, B-12 Chemtool. And you can see that it's still dirty and there's still gunk, and it's going to take work to get that out. And here is the next one, CRC intake cleaner. Not much better. And there's still gunk all around the ports, but you know, it did clean some stuff. And I mean, I think this one was kind of, the backs of the valves were a little less gunked up than the other ones were to begin with. I probably should have given you this view of each one before I did it, but this one is the really expensive one, the BG Platinum, and there's still gunk on the back of those valves. It has cleaned the walls of the cylinders of the intake port a little bit, but there's still gunk on the back of those valves, and I'm gonna need to work at it a little more in order to get that stuff off. It's probably possible. I mean, probably it'd be good to just get a pick tool down there and just pick off all those chunky bits, get them out of there. And yeah, I think I would need to keep on cleaning this, but it is doing some cleaning. I would say that the BG probably is doing the best job. I mean, I know the gunk that you see on the back of the valve says otherwise, but I'm just looking at the whole overall port, you know, the whole intake port. The intake port itself does look a lot cleaner than the rest of them do. This one with the CRC, there's still a lot of gunk on the surface everywhere. And even with the Berryman's Chemtool, there's more gunk on the surface of the intake port, the walls of the intake port. So judging by that, I would say that Chemtool is a little bit better than CRC, and the BG is definitely the best. So it is pricey, but you do get your money's worth with that one. Just for the heck of it, I think I'm going to try to clean port number 4 another time, a second round with the BG Platinum, just because, you know, that's the one that I can see is actually working. And I will see how clean I can get it. I'm just going to go one more round though, and I'll take a pick tool and pick off the big chunks off the back of the valves, and then I'll hit it again, and I'll see. I'm just going to see how clean I could possibly get it, because I think that's what you want to know. How good of a job can you possibly do with one of these chemical cleaners? So given that we found the best one, I'm going to use it and see what I can do. All right, guys, that is as good as I can get it with the second pass, and you see there's still gunk on the back of that valve, and I would really need to get in there with a pick tool or something and really just scrape that stuff off. It's kind of on there really hard, but I don't know, it's done a pretty good job at getting the walls of the intake port clean. It shows you that it is possible, and I think if you keep working at it, you can get them fairly clean with this stuff, but it is not fun. I'll tell you that. It's not easy. Not quick either, and it's very messy. All right, guys, I think that is enough messing around. Now it's time to use the Walnut blaster and see what that looks like. So I think I'm going to bump the engine over and get the valves closed on cylinder number 1, and we'll use that since that one is completely original. Okay, here's a view again at cylinder number 1. That is what it looks like right now. And we're going to do the Walnut blast, and we'll see what it looks like after. All right, so it's not a bad idea to stick some blue towels in your other cylinders just to protect things. This thing just fits in. We're going to click on the vacuum, and we will hit it with some walnut media. Let's hit that. See the walnut shells? Okay, so we still have some walnut media down in the bottom there, and we have to blast like all over the sides in order to get the rest of the sides clean and stuff. So we'll keep going. Because it's going pretty good, but it's kind of mostly clean, but there are some areas on the back of the valve that like aren't coming off right now. So I just wanted to bump up the pressure so I can see it's sort of around the base of the valve. There's some areas, and around the base of this valve, sort of in the back, there's some areas, and then I'm not really getting the walls of the cylinder clean. I guess I got to move the wand around a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of a, I got to learn exactly how to do this in the best way. Okay, so this is what I've been able to do so far. I don't know if you can see this, but there is still some gunk on the back of the ports, and it's maybe hard for you to see, but there's some walnut media that's sort of trapped, hold on, that's sort of trapped in the base of where the valve seats against the valve seat down there. There's gunk there, and there's some walnut media sort of embedded in the gunk. So that's not too encouraging, and I'm gonna need to get that out, obviously, before I run the car again. So I'm gonna need to keep hitting this, and I might need to get down in there to get some of that stuff broken off again with a tool, and and then see what I can do after that. So yeah, I didn't think that I would need to use any kind of a tool to dislodge some stuff, but apparently it is necessary. Okay guys, I've learned a few things as I've been doing this. Number one, I used a lot of abrasive media, a lot of walnut media, probably half the box on just this front cylinder. Didn't even know how much I was using really, and wasn't making a whole ton of progress. And I learned basically that whether it's the walnut or the chemicals, it's really not going to do anything with those hard deposits. And it really would behoove you to, before you do anything, get in there with a pick tool or scraper and just scrape off all the hard stuff. Use the vacuum thing, and use a regular air blower, the one I showed you earlier in the video, to just kind of blow all that stuff up and out of there. That way you're doing most of the hard work yourself, getting all those hard deposits off, and then the walnut or the chemical can be used to just sort of clean the surfaces. And that would be the best way to do it. And I also learned that this tool that I bought sucks because it snapped right off when I tried to put it in that 6th port there. So I'm gonna need to get another one of these tools, and before I can do the rest of this video. And something's leaking on my air compressor. I don't know what, I gotta deal with that. So yeah, none of this really went the way that I was thinking, and the walnut thing was not as good as I was thinking either. So that's definitely going to require more work, or just as much work as the chemical really. It's maybe a little bit cleaner than the chemical is, but you still got to get in there and do some scraping and stuff. All right, so I have JB welded this thing back together, and I've got a new regulator for my air compressor. So let's finish up this video. All right, so I reviewed the footage that I've got so far, and I realized that I was not getting good shots of the bottoms of the intake valves at all. So here I'm doing it with manual focus and holding the light, and hopefully this is a lot better. So you can see this is where I've got the cleaning at this point. Yeah, the walls of the number 1 intake port are pretty clean, although you can see some stuff up at the top right there. See that black stuff at the top? That I'm gonna have to kind of get at that with a pick tool. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, you know, if I had went to town with the pick tool beforehand and got all that stuff up, this would have gone a lot faster, and I think I would have used a lot less of the walnut media.
if you can see, there's still some stuff around the bottom of the valve where it seals against the valve seat right there. I've got to get back there with a pick tool, and then you see there in the front half of the valve, there's still a little more crud stuck on. So that's kind of what I need to hit at this point. You see there's stuff in the back on that one. Oh, I can't get that one, but let's see, here's number 2. You see how there's hard deposits on that valve and around the seat and stuff. This one, I think I've got a lot of crud built up, more than I should have. Probably this car never had a walnut blast at all, and I have 150,000 miles. So that's the state of that valve right there. You see there's a lot of gunk in the bottom there. I had been scraping a little bit of it, so some of it's loose. It can probably be blown out or vacuumed up at this point. And you see here, this was the one that was the CRC. See, there's a lot of crud on the back, and there you can see like the oil buildup. It's a little bit wet still. That's kind of like wet oil and stuff. So hard to get this side. Let's get a different view here. You can see these valves are a little bit open, so I cannot clean them until I close them and bump the starter a little bit. Here's number 4. This is the one that we cleaned with the the more expensive fluid that actually worked the best. You can see that the walls are sort of starting to look clean. Let me focus in on this thing. Which way do we go? That way. So that's what the bottom of the valves look like. You can see still pretty dirty. Again, I was scraping a little bit, so I have yet to vacuum that stuff off. Let's see if we can, yeah, there's that. Still, it's looking, I think it's looking a lot worse than it is. I'll get that stuff off for sure. So there's number 5. Obviously the valves are open on this one. So nothing can happen on this one until we close them at all. That one's there. And then number 6, I don't know if I can actually get a good view of number 6. So here's number 6. It's pretty much mostly untouched. That's about all I can do. Yeah, again, build up around the valve seat area, kind of a lot of build up around there. So I will go in there, hit it with the pick, and scrape off as much as I can before I do the walnut blasting and or the chemical cleaning method. I mean, whichever one, I need to clean stuff and scrape stuff manually. So I'm gonna take some time and do that.
So there is another tool that I bought. It's this, it's this. It's this tool set. I bought this off Amazon for like $25. Harbor Freight, I guess, does have a version of this, but it's got half as many brushes and it's $18, They're not really a bargain on a lot of things anymore. So I picked this one up, and this one can be chucked on a drill, and I can just kind of get it in there and kind of use some mechanical power to help me out. So I'm definitely going to do that and try to scrape it, particularly for the walls of the cylinder, kind of just get all the big bits off. So I'm going to use this and hit it. I'm sorry, there's kind of like no way that I can get a close-up on the port and hold the light and use the drill all at the same time and get my head in there and all that stuff. It's just impossible. So I'm sorry, I wish I could get better footage of this, but this is all I can do. Okay, all right, so you can kind of see how it does a pretty good job of cleaning off the cylinder walls and stuff, but it leaves some, it leaves some of the walnut media down in the bottom there around the base of the valve. It sort of gets stuck, in the sort of harder deposits around the base of the valve. So that's when I have to get in there with a pick tool and just kind of start scraping, or whatever tool, and start scraping and kind of getting it off there, and then I can vacuum it out. So that's kind of the procedure and what I'm doing. So I'm also glad that I bought this gun, because I'm turning the vacuum on and I'm sticking this in there and hitting it with just compressed air, really blowing out a lot of that excess stuff. All right, this is how things look after a round of scraping and another hit with the walnut blaster. You see, I've gotten most of the walnut debris out of there, but there's pretty much diminishing returns on things at this point. There's no point in hitting it with the walnut blaster anymore. From now on, it's really just hand scraping and then blowing or vacuuming it out. All right, guys, I am all done with the cleaning, and
This is about as good as I can get it. I'm going to show you each cylinder, or hopefully try to. We'll just do a back, you know, a far back view. There's number 1. So there's number 2, 3, 4, 5, and, you know, 6 is pretty much the same. And 6. So I also like blew the, like I stuffed the blue towels back in the ports to cover them, and then I blew everything out, all the dirt and debris that was down here with my with the air compressor tool, the air tool, and just cleaned it up with some brake clean as well. Kind of got it, you know, as good as I could without really going to town on it. I'm definitely done with cleaning at this point. So my final thoughts are that this is the only cleaner that actually works. I think I paid $60 for this, but I've seen it for like $100 on Amazon. It's very expensive, but it does work. The other ones, not so much. Even still, the walnut blasting is the far superior method to do this with. It's much quicker, and it cleans more thoroughly. It's much cleaner, and you know, easy to sort of get the, it does leave some of the walnut residue inside the cylinder, but all you have to do is switch to the air chuck and blow it out, and then you're done. You know what I mean? And you maybe only have to hit it twice, if anything. So walnut blasting, far superior. Yes, it's more expensive, but it's worth it. When you're in here and you're doing this, especially on one that was as bad as this one was, I could tell this had never been done at all. This car was a complete virgin to this procedure. When you have a situation like that, you really want the walnut blaster, because it's just going to take so long with the cleaner and be so dirty, and it's just like, yeah, I would much rather. I was very happy to have the walnut blast. Number 2, so when it comes to tools, I definitely made use of this long pick tool. It was nice to have this one, and then the short pick tools as well, particularly this one with the sort of curve in it that allowed me to get around to the back of the valve and sort of scrape the back of it. So that was definitely valuable, this straight one. I really would have liked to have one that was, you know, just like double this length, but not as long or as big as this one. That would have been really nice. So if you find that, I would go with that. These brushes were good, but I also snapped off 2 of these, you know, from sort of torquing them sideways a little bit too much. So make sure that you take that into account. But it was definitely helpful to have these. You don't have to buy this kit though. You can buy, you know, this type, and you can snip this off with a cutting pliers, and then chuck this in your drill, and then you've got the same thing. So you don't have to get these ones. It's, you know, just whatever you can find. A good light, definitely helpful, and yeah, an air check of some kind, preferably the one I showed you with the long extension on it, because that was invaluable. All right, now we're going to put everything back together. I did buy new intake gaskets. Okay, so now it is time to get the intake manifold in this bracket. It needs to slip underneath the rear inlet there. So I'm gonna kind of slip it in underneath like that. Sort of try to get it in and stuff. Like that. Boom. Yeah, I know it's dirty. I try to clean it off a little bit, but right now is not the time for all that. I will pressure wash the whole thing after this, but we're just reassembling here. Got our 1 bolt here, and the rest are nuts. All right. All right, the torque on these is 15 Newton meters. I think a center out pattern or thereabouts is good. All right, guys, back in here, we have this thing right here, which it actually connects to the throttle body. And this is actually the evap solenoid, and it sort of connects back in there. Hopefully we can see it. There's a little rubber grommet thing. back in there, right down in there. There's a rubber grommet, and that's what fits on that bracket. So that's what you got to do there, and we will connect it to the intake manifold. I'm sorry, the throttle body, excuse me. I see my little ring from right here has dropped. I'm going to put that on this inlet pipe. And we have the vacuum lines here, which are going to go to the blow-off valves. We will connect those. This goes to the map sensor, which is on the charge pipe, which we will install in just a moment. And one thing I did forget, you don't want to forget this, is the solenoid for the starter. You want to connect that up again, which is right there next to the little, next to the red thing here. So make sure you connect that or your car will not start, will not even turn over. So boom, that's connected. This connector here goes to the throttle body. And that should be about it.
So guys, since that BG stuff did such a good job with the intake valves, I decided to use it on the throttle body and it did really good. I mean, look at that. There's nothing, it's almost brand new, pretty much. I mean, crazy. So really impressed with that stuff. It's legit, for sure. Let's make sure that this guy is snapped on, right? So that just fits on through those things and snaps on like that. I didn't change the gasket on this one because typically like throttle body gaskets are not, they don't really, at least on a BMW, it's not really something that you need to replace. They're still really good, really supple and not hard and cracked and stuff. So they're still sealing just fine. Probably don't need this extension anymore. All right, we're gonna go 8 Newton meters on these. I'm looking these up, and I always suggest that you do the same. Don't just listen to me. Don't listen to some idiot that you see on YouTube, you know? Like, make sure you look up those torque specs as well yourself. Because, especially on things like this, you could end up snapping things if you get it wrong. And I think a long time ago on the M54 engine, the E46 chassis, I gave some torque specs for a throttle body and they were wrong. Some people ended up snapping some of their bolts. I felt real bad about that. So just make sure you double check. Okay, so this guy gets snapped in to the side there. And we have that connector, which goes in here, down here. You just kind of feel for it and you'll find the orientation. Interesting. It felt like I had it, but it wouldn't go in. Ah, there it is. This wasn't quite straight. Now we can put the charge pipe in, which that's gonna go down under here, basically. So under here and there. And I have my little ring on the pipe. So that'll get slipped over the rubber here. Little clamp, I should say. So slip that on the rubber. Slip the rubber on the hard plastic. Okay. Those go on this side. And then this goes on here like this. Get that bolt up. And we will snap it on like that. The connector down here in the bottom that goes to the map sensor. Right there, like that. And this blow-off valve goes in here. And that blow-off valve goes in there. And we just have to screw this down. Okay, I'm gonna lock this guy in place. Turn it that way. Turn this that way. We got our vacuum lines coming off the intake manifold. Those are just gonna go to these blow-off valves. It obviously doesn't matter which one goes where because they're teed, they're wide. Let's put this engine cover in. Set that guy down in place. All right, and the air box. That goes in. Let's sit this down first. Cool, and then this goes here. Oh, that's snapped off. Bummer. Oh, you know what? This, I think this broke off of right here. So I need to just get that piece of the vacuum line off. That will give you a little bit of a vacuum leak. Although on these engines, it's not the end of the world. That's not a check engine light offense, I believe, typically. Still, you don't want to have it. So there, that's connected. That's good. Now all we need to do, tighten some clamps. There and here. Anything else I'm forgetting? Not really. Just these grommets here. These connectors can go in those grommets. Boom, and oh, I did forget this little connector here for the sensor. I took that off. Cool. That should be about it, other than all the other little things that go up there. Stuff like this. I did forget to tighten this clamp. Let me tighten this up real quick. That was the clamp on the charge pipe. All right, so here's the big moment. Got to start this thing up. I know it's dirty. Please forgive me. I'm gonna pressure wash it. All right, here we go. Ooh, got a little. Ooh, it was not happy. Okay, I missed something. I totally forgot to reconnect the intake temperature sensor. So I'm gonna do that now, if I can find the sucker. Okay, I believe I found it. It's right down here. Hey. That's better. Cool, all right, well, I'll just throw the airbox in real quick before putting everything back together, make sure we're good to go. Okay, let's try that again. Not so much. All right, it is time to get out the scan tool. You know, it's important not to panic in situations like this. I know how frustrating it can be. You know, you're like, you get the thing back together and you're like, oh, my car's broken. What do I do? Well, stay calm, analyze the problem. I don't want to upgrade right now. Yeah, you have to just kind of go step by step and just investigate and figure it out. You know, it's not a big deal. You can definitely do it. You can fix it. All right, here is what we have. Throttle valve potentiometer 1 and 2 and the throttle valve. So I guess, I mean, that's what I figured. I guess I shouldn't have messed with it. I shouldn't have even tried to clean it. Let's clear fault codes. Still the potentiometer 1 and 2 and the throttle valve. Maybe the connector is not plugged in all the way. I thought that I had it plugged in, but maybe not. Ooh, it also says the throttle pedal position sensor. That that might go through the connector on the throttle body maybe, or I don't know. But let's go ahead and I think since these codes are not going away, we got to investigate that connector and see if it's connected. Okay, yeah, I just investigated and I totally did not have the connector plugged in the correct way. It's sort of it's a square connector, so it'll go on one of 4 ways. It'll actually kind of slide on a little bit and then it just won't snap all the way home unless it's in the right orientation, and I just didn't get it snapped originally. That's all it was. So now this, if we clear this, it should not come back. Oh, I need to turn that car back on. Your ignition needs to be on for the scan tool to work. Clear fault code, read fault code. No fault code, there it is. I'm just a dummy. That's all it was. Okay, so now we just have ABS system. Let's clear all these, see what comes back. Bing, bing, bing. That one's been there forever. We know that one. Cool. All right, I think we're good to go now. All right, third time's the charm. Yes, there we go. Much better. Wow, guys, huge improvement in the drivability of this car. The acceleration is so much smoother. Before there were, there were some hiccups. Honestly, I was thinking I still had transmission issues all this time. I didn't realize that it was this bad, and it was the dirty intake valves that were causing some of the drivability problems I had. I also had little hiccups in the idle every now and then. That's all gone now as well. So yeah, no other thing I've done has improved the drivability of this vehicle as much as this, other than rebuilding the transmission valve body. That definitely improved things as well. But now, feels like a new car. It was really great. So definitely worth doing. It was worth the effort, but I'm not gonna lie, it was effort. This was work to do this. So I do understand why people will pay somebody to do this for them, because you're gonna be a couple $100 into it and it's gonna be work. You might as well pay somebody, I don't know, 300 bucks. I have no idea how much it costs. You can do that research yourself. If it costs 300 bucks, it's probably worth it, to be honest with you. If you can find somebody that, like a shade tree guy who will just do it, I would go for it. Otherwise, if you are up for the project, you now see what's involved. And I would say that I would go walnut blasting, although it is possible. I mean, if you just got the BG intake cleaner and you just use that, it's totally possible to do it, and you will get it clean. Just definitely get the brushes and kind of clean with the brushes too. It's a lot more work, but it's doable if you just want to go that route. But if you have a couple extra bucks, I would go the walnut blasting, because it's quicker and better and easier. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And by the way, I know I I took a little break during the summer. I had some personal things going on that really distracted me and were taking up a lot of my time, but those are all over and done now, and it's time to get back to this. And I think the only things we have left really are putting the oil cooler onto this car, which I do have all those parts for. I think I'm going to do that next. We'll do a PCV valve replacement video, and then it's time to install all the mods. I definitely have all of the aftermarket parts picked out that I'm going to put on the engine, and I've got a whole bunch of ideas for videos to do on that. So I'll do a whole series on modding the car and making it faster. So stay tuned for all that. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.